Welcome to Biztech Startup Show, where we feature startup companies across industries as they build and scale their businesses. Today, we feature Finantier, a Southeast Asian open finance startup providing an API or application programming interface platform for financial institutions to access and analyze consumer financial data. Now, to tell us more about Finantier, we've got Diego Rojas, CEO and co-founder of Finantier. Diego, welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian. I'm glad to be here.
Now, Diego, for a start, tell us about Finantier. What are the issues and problems that your company is trying to address?
Well, basically, Finantier is a B2B platform that helps people at the end of the day to make sense of the data and use it to be financially better off. So all of us who are producing data digitally, whether we have a bank account or not, we are producing data, by using our mobile phones and by, using telcos and many other services and products out there. So all this data for consumers is important, and they can be included in the financial system by just, aggregating all this and bringing this to other institutions that they can provide services for them. But how consumers can do this? Well, Finantier is a company that helps them to aggregate all this data, make sense of all this data, and help them to access better and fairer financial services. And this is extremely important in the region to accelerate financial inclusion.
Okay, and we're going to talk about some of those themes later in the show. But Diego, for a start, you and your team have a great background. Tell us about your team and how you got Finantier off the ground.
Sure. Well, we are three co-founders. Myself, I came a long way from Argentina to Southeast Asia, but I've been working in fintech for more than 12 years now, doing P2P lending, lending club in the US, and then more P2P lending and product in China. And then I came to Southeast Asia and I became a CTO of other fintech startups in the region. And all that experience led in a way to co-found Finantier, but also with my co-founders, Ken and Edwin. They also spent some years in the Valley and in China and working in fintech, and they also understand the impact of, at the end of the day, right, the impact that we can have on people's lives by just crunching numbers and data and just building financial products and services. Also in our team, we have people coming from other countries and a very strong, Indonesian team that comes with more financial services experience, and we really understand, what it takes to build financial services and products.
Now, Diego, I want to ask you about Dian Rong, because you were there in a time where the online lending space in China was just exploding. Tell us about that experience and how you saw that growth, and then later a bit of an implosion that took place.
Wow, this is actually, I was way younger, of course, but to me it was an amazing experience because I got to learn so many things, and I got to see actually how things exploded, like you said, at some point in this industry. And we were just building the platform from scratch and building products and things. And one day we just had millions of users, and we were, handling billions of loans and issuing, a lot of credit. And I got to work, firsthand on all this infrastructure, all this data, and all these products. And for me, that was a huge learning experience. And I also got to work with multiple teams, risk department, sales, marketing, and not only the engineering team. And for me, that was just awesome to see the transition in China, towards where China is today, because we're talking about 10 years ago, right? Almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And, the whole payment industry also, accelerated and improved. The whole digitalization went through a very accelerated process in China. And I think, China is a very complex market in general. So things sometimes when get too big, sometimes are a bit, complex to manage. And I think the industry lately, I think in recent years, in recent times, the P2P industry in particular, I think faces some challenges, because even for ourselves at that time in Dian Rong, we had more than 3,000 competitors. And, it's really hard to manage this, especially when you're dealing with people's money, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, kind of didn't help the industry much in recent years.
Okay, and I'm going to come back to some lessons that you learned from that later on in the show. But I want to talk about open finance. Open finance is not something that everyone is familiar with. Can you kind of give us a primer on open finance and how it helps to improve services from fintech companies?
Sure. Well, you know, there is a lot of buzz around open banking, and now we're talking about open finance. But open finance means that all the data that is available for financial usage, it could be data that you have from the banks, data that you have from, gig economy platforms, e-commerce, payments, any data that is related to your financial well-being in a way. This data can be exposed by companies and can be used by many other institutions to build better products and better services for you. So as I mentioned earlier, there is open banking, but that is limited only to data and banking infrastructure. Now, when we expand that to other areas, other domains and services, we have open finance, and we're talking about accounting, we're talking about payments gateways, we're talking about e-commerce, and any other digital platform that has to do with anything to do with financial services. Now, apart or beyond open finance, there is also open data, which includes health data and other data sets. But now in open finance, we really can combine all this data from multiple data sets and multiple domains and put all this data to work for the benefit of people. So this means that companies, by looking into aggregation of multiple data sets, they can understand better the financial standing of someone that maybe doesn't have a credit history in a bank. But
and that's a big thing in ASEAN, because we have a very large population of unbanked and underbanked people. And I think Indonesia, where you operate, has the largest population of unbanked in Southeast Asia.
You're absolutely right, Brian. We're talking about 70% of the population that is unbanked or underserved, and this means that they don't have proper access to financial services, and this really impacts their daily life. So they don't have a way to show that they have a credit history because they don't have bank account, they don't have credit cards, but they do have data that comes from many other sources, from different digital platforms, from government databases, or from other sources that they're constantly producing data for them, and this can be aggregated, can be enriched, and can be passed to some companies that can really build products that will help them to be better off.
And also, one of the things that, and for our audience who are all primarily from of course, an urban environment, in a rural environment where you are underserved and unbanked, your transaction costs, for whether it's for payments and transfers, it's for savings, for credit, is so much higher than traditional banking. So this is where this financial inclusion comes in from open finance, isn't it?
Correct. It's about including people to be able to transact, but particularly including people so they're able to access services that were beyond their reach in the past. As I was saying, there is no proper way for them to show that they have credit history. But now with all these new data sets, all this new data that it can be aggregated, and we aggregate, it's possible for them to approach companies and to be onboarded in these companies. For example, when you apply for a loan in a bank, whether it's a rural bank or an urban bank, retail bank, you have to bring documentation. And still many banks rely heavily on paper, really paper and documents and things that you have to submit. But now, by working with Finantier, some financial institutions or fintechs, they can really accelerate the digital transformation. They can really remove all this paperwork and can just integrate our platform, and they can get data on consumers from many sources, and they can really improve their onboarding process and underwriting processes, and they can approach new segments in the market and the clients of the future.
Okay, then Diego, walk us through how your customers, financial institutions, use your products and services. I think you have a couple of products. You have a payment initiation product, you have an income and identity product verification, which you just talked about, and an account aggregation. So give us a specific example how a client uses your products to serve their customers.
All right, great. So all starts with account aggregation. There are other products, as you mentioned, that are built on top of account aggregation, but the core product of Finantier is basically aggregating multiple data sets from different domains. It's still, financial data, but from different sources, but aggregating all this and enriching all this in a way that makes sense for our clients so they can improve their underwriting processes. Now, on top of all this data that we aggregate, there are different verification layers: identity verification, enriched with financial data; income verification, to really understand the income streams of individuals, and at the same time verify who is the employer and how also they're spending the money. And there are also other features more related to eKYC, but all this built on top of the data that we aggregate. Apart from this, there are two more lines of products. Payments initiation is work in progress, and credit scoring is another product that we're launching, and many clients are demanding, basically helping them to make decisions on top of the data that we aggregate beyond the identity layers and beyond what I mentioned earlier. Really, companies really want to understand from all the sources that we gather and we aggregate data, how they can really personalize products for these consumers, right? How can they approach them with new products? And these scoring capabilities really help them to make decisions faster.
Okay, so Diogo, one of the things that this does, and it opens up a lot of challenges as well, because one of the things is many of these underbanked and underserved customers, whether it's Indonesia, whether it's Philippines, they work in the informal economy. They also then work in the gig economy. Now, in the gig economy, perhaps it's a little easier to trace their income streams, but how does Finantier help them to aggregate this information so that there's better decision making?
Well, there are many companies actually doing a great job in rural areas or also in urban areas, but approaching and working with underbanked and unbanked. So at the end of the day, in the I would say in the financial journey of a person, or maybe in the daily life, at different points, transactions and the behaviors get digitized by different platforms, agents, points of sales, or even by telco companies. So your digital footprint or digital footprint of unbanked and underserved is out there, but just spread across multiple companies, right?
Yes.
What Finantier does is actually we do partner with all these companies, and we do help them in a way to monetize all these data sets in a way that is secure, compliant, and respects also the the rights and the terms and conditions with their clients. But we do partner with all these companies, and we combine all this data in our platform and make it available for our clients.
And so also, therefore, you will then supplement. In fact, you will emerge as a competitor to traditional credit bureaus.
In a way, it might seem like, but there is a key and core difference here, that the data that we gather is up-to-date data. It's what's happening today, what people is doing today, almost real time. And at the same time, the amount of data sets coming from multiple domains and sources is way richer. So, it's up to our clients to make use of this data and build better experiences and products for their own clients. But they are the ones making decisions. We are not necessarily a credit bureau that would suggest what they have to do for this particular person.
Okay, so Diogo, sounds like you're about a year plus old right now. You've just raised a 7-figure seed round, which was oversubscribed, and you had a post-money valuation of more than 20 times your pre-seed valuation in November 2020. So congratulations on that. What are you going to do with this money?
Well, it's actually doubling down and extracting our position in Indonesia, definitely, and bringing great talent to the firm. But there is also an expansion that we're working on to the Philippines and to other markets in Southeast Asia, but Philippines is the second market for us, and there's work that we're doing on the ground already. And at the same time, I think you mentioned earlier, payments initiation, and we spoke about credit scoring. There are a number of products that we're building also that we really want to execute, double down, and build better experiences for our clients, right? And we are working on that. And towards the future, what's the vision from a technical perspective of Finantier? Basically, for our clients, we want to help them to launch really quick financial services, to embed financial services. And that also, gives you a hint, right? That, today we're an open finance platform because we have to build this infrastructure, all these connections to gather all this data and enrich it. But also as we continue to evolve and as we see also the demand from our clients, we are heading towards an embedded finance play where we can really help anyone on the business side of things to really effectively and quickly launch, payment experiences, lending experiences, pay now, pay later, and things like that, all on top of Finantier. And another important aspect that I want to mention is how we also work closely with regulators, with banks, with governments, and you mentioned earlier about learnings of, working in China, working in lending, in fintech.
Yes.
And for me personally and for the team, trust is the most important asset when you're working and building financial services and providing financial services, right? Yes. And it's very important to work in good terms with everyone, regulators, banks, financial institutions as a whole, right? And we're doing actually a pretty solid work there. And in the way that Finantier is operating, we really are building a platform with positive outcomes for everyone, our clients, regulators, consumers, partners. So that's how we're building this infrastructure, and it's truly an ecosystem.
Now, Diego, from your lessons in China,
right,
what do you think that you could then apply in ASEAN and maybe not repeat some of those mistakes that were made in China?
Yes, well, I think it's pretty much related with what I was saying earlier about trust. I think the move fast and break things motto from Facebook, and to a certain extent, things that I experienced in China doesn't really apply to financial services, to fintech in general. And I think in Southeast Asia, we need to be very careful. I think many things are going on, and even regulation, things are heading in the right direction. But sometimes, some people is super excited about things, and whether it's maybe crypto or, things that are not clear in regulation. And, we need to be super careful, because at the end of the day, we in financial services, we're handling and dealing with, people's money and also their life in a way. So we need to be extremely careful to, explain how we do things, to, we need to be transparent, and we need to educate the market as a whole, right? And to really, seek feedback as well, and to understand and work together, these issues. But I think it's very important to really do it. I wouldn't say slow. I think move fast and break things. I understand that as a founder and entrepreneur, but I think financial services, we need to be extra cautious. And it's not all about speed. It's about, trust, transparency, and thinking about positive outcomes for everyone.
Now, do you think that, and so you are, again, I'm coming back to China, because for the last couple of years, people looked in ASEAN towards China, especially in the fintech world, as China being the innovator, for us to look at China, learn from them, adapt, and execute in Southeast Asia. Do you think that you are starting to see real innovation coming out of Southeast Asia already in the fintech space?
I do think that. I think my view is that, there are many learnings from China, many things we can learn from the US, even from Europe, and also lately from India. I think that in Southeast Asia, we're in a very good position where, the population is mostly mobile, and digital, young. The markets are sizable and big enough. So I think we might seem that we're lagging behind in certain areas and domains, but that gives us a chance to really learn from all these giants around the world, and to really apply all these learnings to the context of Indonesia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand. I think some entrepreneurs are doing a great job, and also our hope and our wish with Finantier is to raise the standards in the industry, and to really help Indonesia, Philippines, and the rest to be at the forefront of innovation, to leapfrog and really be at the forefront of innovation. And for us building infrastructure, I think we have a role to play. But to me, it's not only about China, only about the US. I think it's a combination of views and approaches and ways to do things, but always hyper localize it to the context of each market or each region.
Diego, it's been a fascinating conversation, and I've learned really a lot. But before we leave, any final thoughts from you before we end the conversation?
Well, I think from Finantier perspective, right? I think it's very important, as I was saying earlier, to do things in the right way, to do things in a transparent way, and to really build positive outcomes for everyone at the end of the day, and that's what we're doing here. And we're working with banks, with regulators, with different institutions, and we'll be more than happy to expand our network. We already work with many, but happy to keep engaging more people and bringing the open finance work to everyone. I think this is already showing how we can help people to be included, and how we can accelerate financial inclusion across the region. I think we have a role to play. We have a mission here in Finantier, and we're really excited about this.
Diego, thank you very much for your insights, and thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Brian.
Now, we've been speaking to Diego Rojas, the CEO and co-founder of Finantier, on Biztech Startup Show. This video will be on our Facebook and LinkedIn sites, as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks again for tuning in.